All right. So, as I like to say with these things, as long as everything is working the way that it should be working, we are now live. So, hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Written Melanin channel, wherever this day may have found you. I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Chelsea, and I write books about black girls who aren't all that nice. And I'm here with the one, the only, the amazing, my good friend, Audra Russell. And we are here to bring some melanin to your pages. And I'm so excited because Audra is back. And y'all, we have some things to discuss. We have some things to conversate about this week. So I'm excited. Also, shout out to everyone who is already in the chat. Audra was first. I don't know if that's cheating or not, but she was technically first. So I'm going to acknowledge it. And
You're going to give me my first. Damn it.
Also, Ben is here. Oversimplified Productions is here. Deja is here. Hello, welcome. La is here. Hello, welcome.
You, Deja. That song just comes in my head every time. Can't help it.
And we are here for some goodness, you guys. So, I had to restart my computer right before we started, which is a little bit why I'm late. Not the entire reason, just part of the reason. Just part of the reason. But y'all know I run on CP time, so y'all know who I am at this point. It's fine. But also, Truth Hurts is here. Hello, welcome. For sure, let us know how you guys have been doing for the last 2 weeks. Audra, as I'm pulling stuff up, could you please let us know how you are doing? Because we missed you last Melanin Chat.
Doing good. I have a junk removal business, and I've been doing a lot of networking, going to real estate offices and stuff like that, and I had another clean out last week. So, when I'm not doing Melanin Chat, I am pretty much doing that, trying to build and, stuff. So I'm doing good, a little tired. Have a second exam for my mammogram because they found something, which I'm hoping is just my dense breasts again. But, I'm rolling. I'm here, and I'm happy and just thinking good thoughts. And I'm happy to be back with my Chelsea because I just love being here. And Oversimplified Protection says my mic is a little too intense. Is that better?
I turned the volume down, so let me know if that helps.
And I will move my mic away from my face.
Audra's just loud. Yeah, that's what it is.
I can't stand y'all. You make me sick, Chelsea.
You love me.
I do. I can't help myself. I can turn on my fan.
So
it's time.
We got things to discuss, but we are going to get into this melanin spotlight for this week. And y'all can already see Audra with her book in her hands. So I'm going to go ahead and let her go and tell y'all about this book.
Hey, see my book.
I saw it.
You don't know that I have a book.
I do. I seen it already. Nothing. I synced the pages. Go ahead.
My book is nonfiction. Y'all should know about Harriet Jacobs, her book, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Well, last week, I saw a DM from a good friend of mine who sent me an article that was in the New York Times about a autobiography that was discovered in Australia by John Swanson Jacobs, who is the brother of Harriet Jacobs. And he basically, you should read the article. Chelsea's gonna
I'll put it in the Discord for anybody who is signed up, but the Discord is paid, so $5 to get in.
Yeah. And he was enslaved in North Carolina, escaped while they were at some hotel in New York, and went on a whaling ship and went to Australia, and basically asked them for a copy of the Constitution when he got there, and then took that Constitution and wrote his own autobiography. And the thing is that something new that I learned is that the white abolitionists here really controlled the narratives of enslaved people who wrote their autobiographies. So he wrote his unencumbered by the white abolitionist gaze.
Mm-hmm.
So it is called A True Story of Slavery, the United States Governed by 600,000 Despots. And it says, lost on the other side of the world since 1855, the story of John Swanson Jacobs finally returns to America. For 168 years, a first-person slave narrative written by John Swanson Jacobs, brother of Harriet Jacobs, was buried in a pile of newspapers in Australia. Jacobs' long-lost narrative, The United States Governed by 600,000 Despots, is a startling and revolutionary discovery. A document like this, written by an ex-slave and ex-American, in language charged with all that can be said about America outside America, untampered with and unedited by white abolitionists, has never been seen before. A radical abolitionist, sailor, and miner, John Jacobs has a life story that is as global as it is American. Born into slavery, by 1855 he had fled both the South and the United States altogether by becoming a stateless citizen of the world and its waters. That year he published his life story in an Australian newspaper far from American power and its threats. Unsentimental and unapologetic, Jacobs radically denounced slavery and the state, calling out politicians and slave owners by their names, critiquing America's founding documents, and indicting all citizens who maintained the intolerable racist status quo. Reproduced in full, this narrative, which entwines with that of his sister and with the life of their friend Frederick Douglass, here opens new horizons for how we understand slavery, race, and migration, and all that they entailed in 19th century America and the world at large. The second half of the book contains a full-length, 9-generation biography of Jacobs and his family by literary historian Jonathan Schroeder. This new guide to the world of John Jacobs will transform our sense of it and the forces and prejudices built into the American project. To truly reckon with the lives of John Jacobs is to see with new clarity that in 1776 America embarked on 2 experiments at once, one in democracy, the other in tyranny. John Swanson Jacobs was an abolitionist, miner, sailor, and citizen of the world.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
I'll be reading this because I need to reread Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl.
You know, I actually don't read a whole lot of nonfiction. I've been getting more into it lately. And by lately, I mean, I read one book and now I think I'm an aficionado. But I also am like, that sounds it sounds kind of interesting. I feel like it may be like not an easy read, but I think it might definitely be something worth reading, if that makes sense. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, slave narratives are never easy reads, but you know, I feel like I owe it to them to know their stories because they were able to survive it so that we could be here.
Yeah.
So, the least I could do is read it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I maybe shouldn't have let Aja go first because my book is not nearly that serious or heavy, important, I'll say. What I've got for you guys today is actually it's called The Seventh Kingdom, and it is a manga, and it is written by a Black woman who is actually working with a Japanese mangaka to make a genuine manga with a Black lead. And it is the first time that I've heard of anything like that. And you guys know that I love anime. I'm sure you can see my manga collection back here. So it's kind of cool. It's just like, oh, this is, I don't say it's cool, but like that's literally the best word that I have for it, because one of the conversations that come up a lot in manga when it comes to like graphic novels and things like that, it's just the fact that unless it's written by a Japanese artist, it's not really a manga. It's like a graphic novel, it's a comic, it's whatever you want to call it. It's like the difference between anime and cartoon. It's very minor, but anime is specifically made in Japan, it's Japanese, and cartoons are made in America. So it's very cool that she's making an actual manga with a Japanese mangaka. So that's pretty cool. And I believe the mangaka himself has actually worked with Shonen Jump, which again, if you're not in the anime manga world, that is like the biggest magazine. It's like the equivalent of being like, I worked with like Orbit or whatever in America, like if you write books or whatever. I don't know. There's not really an equivalent, but it's like, I don't know, being like, yeah, I draw for Nickelodeon or whatever. I don't know. That's the best I got. That's the best I got. There are no equivalents, but it's very cool. And she also came on the podcast, so stay tuned for that, because her episode is going to be coming out on the channel pretty soon, where we talk about all of like her journey to creating this and her production company and all those type of things. But she's also doing an Indiegogo for the Seventh Kingdom right now. So if you guys want to support, you can. But she's trying to produce the paperback copies of the first volume, which is called Family History. And she wants to attend her first convention, which is Dragon Con, and then produce merchandise that can be sold at local vendors and events and things like that. So if you are interested in supporting a Black woman who is creating Black stories, which I hope you are since you are on this channel, there's a link down in the description box below if you want to check out her Indiegogo. But that being said, the first book in her series, or the first chapter, because I believe she said there are going to be 50 chapters in a volume, is Family History. And like I said, it's the Seventh Kingdom. There is an actual Japanese name to go along with it, and I practiced it during the interview. I just don't know how to say it without her guiding me through it. So take that for what you will. But thrown into a world of danger, 19-year-old Clarabelle Keita must navigate a life-threatening mission in Kinnesek, I think that's how you say it. Probably not, but yeah, Kinnesek, a town far removed from her peaceful past, in search of the Tea Master. Upon meeting him, she explains her mission: revenge for the brutal destruction of her village. As Clarabelle challenges the Tea Master to join her quest, the pivotal moment approaches. Will he embrace the call to arms or remain an observer in the face of vengeance against a formidable foe, the Seventh Kingdom? So there are manga panel previews if you are interested on the Indiegogo, and she does have a preview available on like Webtoon and pretty much like everywhere. So get into that if
Now,
you are interested.
what is a mangaka? What is that?
Um,
'Cause, I don't know nothing about no anime.
I'm gonna keep this brief because y'all know I can go on a tangent.
I
But
know. I shouldn't have asked, I guess.
a mangaka is just a person who draws manga officially. It's kind of like how in America we call them authors. And it's basically a mangaka is the equivalent of like a Japanese person who creates graphic novels for a living.
Okay.
But usually they are the creator and illustrator. So like the really popular ones, like One Piece, throwing it in there, couldn't make it through an episode without talking about it. But like Ichiro Oda, he creates the story for and draws all of not all of them. He got assistants and stuff, but he creates it and draws it. So that's what a mangaka does. The only difference is with the Seventh Kingdom, she is creating and writing the story, and then she's working with the mangaka to actually draw and illustrate it, and then they're putting it together.
Nice. Okay. See, I learned something new.
So glad I could help. But that being said, shout out to everyone who came in while we were giving the Melanin Spotlight. So, Truth Hurts is here. Margaret is here. Good morning. Vina has come to the chat. Hello, welcome. And if you guys have not seen her short, she did a reading retreat, right? Recently. So you guys should check that out because it looked really fun. Read Love Listen is here. Good morning. TEB. Awesome. Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. And also, slight reminder that if you haven't already, go ahead and tap the like button because it does not hurt you. So that being said, let's talk about this because as y'all can see, Trad Pub has failed. So y'all know that I don't normally keep up with the bookish drama. It's usually Vina coming in, but she was on vacation this week, so I had to do my own research. And in it, one of the conversations that has kind of come up is there's a link in the description box to the full article, but basically it has come to light, the conversation this week rather, was how traditional publishing has been failing Black authors to the point where even bookstores, especially indie bookstores, are like, it is not unusual for them to get calls from a Black author who is basically in distress because their publisher is not doing what they are supposed to be doing to promote the book and send it out and get quotes and proofs and all of the things. And I think it's an interesting conversation to be had. I think it's interesting that we are having the conversation a little bit louder now. Other people are getting in on the conversation or recognizing that it needs to be had. I don't even know the right wording that I'm looking for exactly. But it's just like we've been talking about this forever. And if you guys have not seen the interview that I did with Bethany Baptiste, she talked about it as well, you know, with her whole author journey, right? About how her publisher just dropped the ball left and right and left and right and along every step of the way. And I also feel like one of the things that kind of ties into this conversation is, again, if you follow Bethany on Twitter, she made an announcement saying that she has officially left her publisher and that, you know, she signed for a 2-book deal. The first one being The Poisons We Drink, and then there was supposed to be another book. If you watch the interview, originally it was supposed to be The Poisons We Drink was supposed to be a duology. They cut it down to a standalone, and she was supposed to deliver another book. But after everything that happened, I guess they've parted ways. But it was interesting because in the tweet, she pointed out that they offered her the termination agreement. That's not something that she asked for. And that in basically sitting on it and thinking about it before she accepted it, she was like, this is something that they proposed to her, which I think is kind of crazy for your publisher to come to you and be like, hey, do you want out because we're dropping the ball so bad? Like, that's crazy. Not how can we fix it? Not how can we do better? Not we're sorry and we don't want you to go. It's, do you want to leave? Like, it's okay if you want to leave. That's crazy. And then she talked about how in the midst of that, her agent also dropped her because she left her publisher. And I'm just kind of like, oh my God, what? Is that not your job to represent this author? And it's just kind of like, again, I feel like we see on every front or whatever, how traditional publishing makes these promises. They make these, oh, we're going to do better. They make these initiatives, but then somewhere between the final syllable leaving their mouth and actually doing the thing, the plot gets lost and it just never comes to fruition, you know? And it's almost at this point, I don't say frustrating to watch. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like watching the same movie over and over again, but it's just like, oh, new title, new characters. Maybe this time they'll do it right. And then just being disappointed when they don't, you know? It's just like, this is ridiculous at this point.
First of all, I'm highly suspicious because I have never heard a publisher coming to an author and saying, do you want out because we've done such a horrible job promoting your book? I think if you do some digging there, you'll find there's a deeper story to that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But also, this does not surprise me, and I have said it before and I will say it again, and I understand because I could just hear DL saying self-publishing ain't for everybody. But
it's not.
To me, it's not. But to me, if you're serious about your work and you're serious about getting your books out there, for me, there is no other choice for a Black author other than self-publishing. If you want your story to remain authentic and if you want your story to actually be out in the world within a year of you writing it and not having to wait 2 or 3 years for a release to come out and having to promote it for 2 or 3 years or whatever,
you know,
and keeping control of the cover and the narrative and everything. I mean, with the way traditional publishing is, you really don't have anything to lose by going the self-publishing route because they're not doing their job.
And you know, y'all know if you're on this channel that first of all, I'm a rebel. I am down with the patriarchy for sure. Right? That's who I am. But it's also one of the things where I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to like die on this hill, but I'm definitely standing 10 toes down on it. At this point in 2024, I don't believe that there is any value in a Black author going through the traditional publishing route, unless it is solely for validation. That is something that you cannot replace with self-publishing, with indie publishing. That is a fact. If you are looking for validation in a very specific way, then yeah. But at this point, I feel like there have been so many articles that have come out. There have been so many conversations that have been had. There have been so many numbers that have been revealed where it's just like, even when you start talking about having a career, and I guess that's what I mean. If you're a Black author who wants a career in writing, you cannot consider traditional publishing to be the only path to go to it unless you're writing to a very certain demographic, and it is not a demographic that's going to look like you. And that's just being real. Because I'm also really tired of having the conversation of Black authors in traditional publishing are writing their stories for Black readers, because they are not. They expect the support of Black readers, and that I think a lot of them, and I'm not saying this is everyone, so like if you are a traditionally published author or no one and the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it, right? But also I feel like a lot of traditionally published authors who are Black navigate through that space as if they are expecting Black readers to just fall in line and support them because they are also Black. And it's like, I want to see you get your bag, but I also want good stories, and I want stories that are meant for me, because I have lived entire decades of my life with books that are not catered to me. There are too many books in the world to read who are written by people who look like me, for people who look like me. I do not need to continue to be pandered to and to pretend like this book was for me when it really wasn't. Like, I'm so sorry that, like, go get your bag, get your validation, do whatever it is that you need to do, but you no longer need to rely on me to help you be successful when you do not care about me, my plight, or people who look like me. Like, I don't mean that in like a rude way, but just like a genuine, it is what it is. Like, moving forward, I'm really kind of tired of, ooh, this is going to sound really bad, but it is what it is. I'm just really kind of tired of the conversations of, oh my God, they don't treat me right. Like, I don't know, babes, you voluntarily entered into an abusive relationship. Like, you knew this was going to be toxic and abusive when you went into it. You knew that you were going into a ring with somebody who's got on, what do you call those things? Brass knuckles, and you were going in barefaced like a baby. I don't know. You chose this. I don't know what you would like the rest of us to do, to take up arms. I mean, yes, I feel for you. Yes, they are wrong. Yes, they should do better. But yes, you knew that when you walked into it. And I think it's the reality that a lot of people go in thinking that they are the exception. They're going to be the one that changes everything. They're going to be the one who tears down the machine. And it's like, no, babes, you just signed up to be a cog in it. And when it no longer works, they're going to kick you out. They're going to replace you. And that's what it is. And it's like, it sucks. But I'm also kind of at a point where I'm like, I don't want, oh, this is going to sound so bad. You guys understand that I come from a genuine place, but I'm also like, I'm kind of tired of hearing traditional authors cry about it. Like, I want, like, yes, talk about it, share what's happening, but also, if you continue to choose this, what would you like the rest of us to do? Because the people who hear you, the people who empathize with you, the people who are going to be able to make change are not the same people. Unfortunately, the people who hear you and empathize with you and want things to be different are not the people who have the power to make things change. We are also, a lot of us, trying to get a foot in the door. And with that, I'm kind of the mindset where I'm just like, I don't say we should be making our own, because I feel like that's something that always comes to light. And as someone who tries really hard to promote Black authors and has a platform dedicated to uplifting Black authors, I think the issue runs so further deep, so much deeper than a lot of what people are willing to discuss. Because running a platform for Black authors is very, I don't say thankless, but in a lot of ways it feels very thankless, because it's just like people will say they want to support, and then when it's time to actually do the things to support, it's like crickets. Not even crickets. The crickets don't even show up to the party. It's just absolute dead silence. And you're just like, where were all of you like a minute ago when I was saying, yeah, I'm going to do this. Yeah, we should do this. Yeah, we should come together. Yeah, it should be different. But then when it's time to actually be different, it's like, no, I don't want to do that. That's work. And it's just like, yeah, it's work, but that's what it is. I don't know. It's always going to be work. It always has been work. It's until it's fixed, it's always going to be work. But the thing is, it's going to be work left or right. Whether you are fighting a system or fighting to build a new one, it's going to be work. It's going to be hard. But let me catch up to the comments.
Anything that you want to do is going to be work, no matter what it is. If it's something that you love, if it's a dream of yours, it's going to be work. If it doesn't require any work, then it's it's not going to produce anything.
It's not going to produce anything.
So,
And the thing is, I feel like all of us want to reap the benefits of having these things, but it's just like things are not built overnight. As they say, Rome was not built in a day, right?
mhm,
And it's just like it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes showing up consistently, and not just the people who are actively building it. Because sometimes I think you brought it up, Audra. It was a book talking about how someone has to bring the potato salad or whatever, talking about the
mhm,
civil rights movement, and how like their people talk about, you know, the leaders and the people who were the face of the movement and all of that. But you know, somebody had to bring the potato salad. Somebody had to have the bail money. Somebody had to organize people.
mhm.
Somebody had to send the emails. Somebody had to send the letters. Somebody had to, you know, go get their suits pressed and ironed to make sure that they were ready for these events. And I feel like as a community, we need to collectively acknowledge that, yeah, there are going to be people out front, like, you know, for the sake of conversation, right? You and I, with the podcast that we run, with the Melanin Library, what we're doing here with the Melanin Chat, sure, we're the ones on screen, but in order to do this, there still requires people behind the scenes to make it work. We still need listeners. We still need supporters. We still need people who are going to share the content. We still need people who are going to be like, hey, you as an author should reach out to this platform because they are actually actively helping to promote Black authors. And in doing that, you know, authors who hold themselves accountable to actually sharing the content that we help create to promote them. Like there's so many levels to it. And I feel like as a community, there are a lot of us who fall short of that second part, right? Of there has to be, yes, the resources exist, but I feel like we also want to cry when the resources no longer exist, when they were not being supported. And it's just like you can only do so much off of a passion project for so long before you're like, I need to see results if I'm going to continue pouring into this. And then when people
And
get
that is the
serious,
reason why I felt guilty about not doing Between the Reads, because I was doing my junk removal business. And then one day I woke up and was like, you know what? I don't feel guilty because I poured into it consistently every single day, every single week of every single month for 3 years straight. And my downloads were still consistently in the like 60s, 70s. On a sporadic occasion, I would get 200 downloads in a week, but I never got more than consistently between 40 and 60 downloads a week. And I would have authors come on the show and then not promote it on their channel. And I made it extremely easy for them to do so. You know, they didn't promote. I would get these emails from authors, you know, talking about all the wonderful stuff they did. And their interview with Between the Reads was not there. It was just not. I wasn't expecting people to just be like, oh my God, Between the Reads is so great. But I was expecting authors to be like, I was on this podcast. Let me share it on my platform. But I had, what, 165 interviews
mm-hmm.
over the past 3 years. And of those 165 authors that have been on the show, less than 20 actually shared the episodes on their platforms. And so when I decided to do junk removal because I needed a way to help my husband make some money because we have some goals that we want to hit this year, and I couldn't get a job because I've been a homemaker so long, I was like, what can I do? I clean. Let me start this junk removal business. And I was like, something has to go to the wayside. I let Between the Reads go to the wayside for that exact reason, because the support isn't there. People say they want it, but then they don't promote it. They don't support it. They don't share the content. They don't engage with the nothing. So,
Oh yeah, so like as I agree, I 100% get it because, again, full transparency, because y'all know on the podcast, on the channel, who I am as a person. I believe in full transparency, right? And it's something that you guys can see too. Like if you go on the channel, you can see all the episodes of the podcast in a playlist, right? You can see how many people have viewed the video versus how many people have liked it, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of crazy because if you see the one with Bethany, you'll see that video is in the hundreds, right? Which for me, as a small content creator, it's like that's really good. But then if you see the other ones, it's just like it's those numbers just don't align, right? People come for the popularity, they come for the moment, but then they don't don't stay, they don't continue to promote the content. And as someone who recognizes that, I don't, this is not a like me harping on it. However, I do want to point out that organizing anything with other people over the internet across time zones and trying to promote them takes work. It is not something where it's just like, okay, we just hop on and we're just going to shoot the breeze for a while. I had to correct myself because this is PG-13. But it's just kind of like, it takes time. It takes prep. It's like, okay, let me see what other interviews you have done. Let me see what your book is about. Let me see where it's available. Let me see when the release date is. Let me see what kind of questions I can actually talk to you about and ask you about. Let me get you comfortable enough before we even press record for us to be able to have a conversation. Because you'd be amazed to know how many people come on a podcast without ever having heard an episode, without having any idea of what to expect, and not having read any of the preparatory information, because Audra and I both send that to be like, hey, this is what you can expect from the podcast. It might not be a list of questions, but it will be hey, this is the format, this is how we do things. And it does become a little exhausting after a while. And it's something that I have kind of noticed because, slight plug, you guys know that I started a second channel for the Melanin Library. So the first link down the description box below is going to take you to the Melanin Library channel. So if you're not subscribed, please do, because if you're over here, hopefully you support Black authors writing Black books. And that is the channel where I am going to be highlighting Black authors writing Black books. That is the goal, right? But it is also one of those things where it's just like seeing it and starting over from scratch and trying to promote books by Black authors and seeing how can I be petty for a moment? Can I be trifling?
Mm-hmm. Please.
It's one of those things where it's just like, oh, so if I have seen booktubers blow up overnight simply because they were male and they read a book. Like, oh my God, he read a book. What? I have seen booktubers blow up overnight because they're like, oh my God, I read all of Sarah J. Maas in a weekend. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Okay, cool. But it's just like being like, hey, here are Black authors. It's just like crickets. And like I said, even the crickets leave after a while. They didn't even stay for the whole show. And it's just like, you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of the lip service. And the only thing that I'm really grateful about having two small channels at this point is the fact that with this channel, right, with Written in Melanin, I had this channel in 2019, and when 2020 happened, I'm sure a lot of you who have YouTube channels or any type of content saw this major, crazy influx of followers, subscribers, numbers, right, during the time that we'll call the Black Square moment, right? And it was just like, okay, cool, the numbers, but then the numbers don't add up, right? Those people aren't actually watching your content, but now your numbers are completely conflated. And it's just kind of like, it messes with your head. Even if, sorry, my dog was having a moment. Even if, the algorithm doesn't really care about how many subscribers you have at this point, or if it's, et cetera, whatever, right? It still messes with your head when you're looking at the numbers and you're like, I have 1,200 subscribers. I have 1,300 subscribers. I have 1,500 subscribers. I can barely get 100 views on a video. And it's just like, it's not the content, because everybody who watches the content likes the content. It's the fact that no one's sharing the content and the algorithm isn't pushing it. And it's just like, okay, I want more content like this. I get comments like that, right? I get emails like that. I get requests like that. And it's like, I make the content, but then it's not going anywhere because the people that it's showing to, most algorithms, right? They're going to show it to your audience first. The people who have subscribed to you, the people who have turned on notifications, the people who say they want your content. If they don't watch your content, they're not going to push it out to an even wider audience. That's a very broad definition of the algorithm, and it doesn't work like that on every platform. But for the most part, it kind of boils down to that. So it's like, you have all these people, you have all these numbers, and they don't come through. And then it just kind of tanks your stuff. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And I find it interesting that people are usually like, keep going. And It's just like, but do you know how much energy this takes? Do you know what I'm not doing in order to be able to do this? Do you know what I'm sacrificing in order to be here and to show up and to make this kind of content? Do you know? Because it's a lot. It doesn't just come out the blue. As much as I would like to be that talented, I cannot just go to the bathroom and just pull out of my ass. So it's just kind of like, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes time, it takes court. Ugh. Anyway, I went on a rant. I'm gonna get off of it because it's not about me. It's not about me. But
Sure it is. It's about us. It's about content because, like I said, that's why when I was sitting there talking to my husband about it, because I was just like, I feel like I'm giving up because I poured 3 years of hard work into this thing, but when I have an author on the show, I spend the week reading the book, making the questions, doing all the graphics, all that kind of stuff. I literally spent 40 to 50 hours a week doing this show.
oh yeah.
And I was like, I got to do this other business. I got to do something that's actually going to make me money. But I feel like I'm quitting on this. But he was like, leave it up. Once we get the things that we want to get done, you can go back to it if you want or not, But it's like, I poured 50, 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours a week into this podcast for 3 years straight. My Patreon never grew past 12 people. Lost some Patreon people along the way. Like I said, I never had consistently more than 40 or 50 downloads a week out of almost, well over on my way to 200 guests, and less than 20 actually would share the content.
Oh yeah.
I mean, spend all that time working, it doesn't take anything. I made it so simple for people. I sent them the sound clip. I tagged them as collaborators. All they had to do was hit share. And for people to say, oh, well, it doesn't go with the aesthetic of my page, or just to not do it at all, or to put it in their stories, which,
It's
goes
only
away
24
after
hours.
48 hours. Yeah, 24 hours or whatever. Like, you can't put it on your page. I mean, these are quality graphics. These are quality sound bites. This isn't just garbage that I'm doing. This was high quality stuff. And I couldn't get people to share it. I couldn't get people to talk about it. I couldn't get people to, to promote it. Like, this is promoting your book. This interview is going to get people more interested in your book, and you can't take the 10 seconds it would take to share it on your page.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's like, people treat it like it is content for us, yes, but it's just like, I'm doing it for you. Like, this isn't promoting me. I'm not getting accolades from this. I'm not getting money from this. Mm-hmm. No one's going to watch my interview of you and then decide to go buy my book or sign up for my Patreon or whatever. This is for you. And it's like, there's value in it, right? That's why we decided to do it in the first place. But like you said, after 3 years, I have been doing this since 2020. So we're in 2024, right? So I've been doing this for 4 years. I ain't like Audra, right? We have established this. Audra's a lot nicer than me. Audra's a lot more consistent than me. Audra is a better person than me, because I have definitely had moments where I was just like, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like, it's exhausting, and the lack of professionalism is what kind of gets to me, because also, if you guys have been around since, I'll say 2021 or 2022, then you'll know that things change the longer you do it, and the energy you have when you're starting out and you're super excited about it does not remain consistent. It will wane over time, and it gets to a point where you're just like, you know what? I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna see if people actually want this. And it's kind of disheartening when you get to a point where it's just kind of like, you take a break and nobody notices, or you step back and nobody's like, hey, what are you doing? Where are you? I haven't heard. Or it gets exhausting. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's just,
yeah. And then it's the other thing, like you said, you have somebody, a man says, I read a book, and boom, it blows up. Or I have watched other podcasts that started the same time as me, and they talk about nothing. They talk about ridiculous, ratchet nonsense, and their podcasts have blown up. They get thousands of downloads a week, and I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, and
I mean,
it's.
That's not who I am. I want to give people quality content. I'm trying to promote these Black authors. I'm not going to be able to do that being ratchet, and that's not what they want. So that's the other reason why I was like, I'm just going to let it sit there, because I have to listen to what the numbers are telling me, and the numbers are telling me that people are not interested in quality interviews about black authors. So
No, that's valid because Venus said it in the chat, but people want drama, but they don't want the books.
mhm,
And that's exactly what
mhm.
it feels like. And it feels like shouting and screaming into the void, especially when there is a certain demographic of people who will get on the internet and cry that goes back to what I said at the beginning of this podcast. A lot of traditionally published Black authors are not writing books for Black people, but then there is a certain demographic of Black readers who want to get on the internet and cry because they don't have books for them. And it's just like, it's not because there are not resources. It's not because people are not trying to tell you about it. It's because you want the popular author. You want to be in the cool kids club, but you also want to be included. And the reality of it is that those two things, as a Black person in America, generally speaking, making a generalization, do not coexist. Okay, you're not reading the big popular books and finding representation at the same time. Not accurate representation, right? And it's frustrating. It's super frustrating because honestly, if I'm being real, if I'm being 100% real with you guys, I have not read a traditionally published book recently that I was just like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. I should tell other people about it. Indie books, for sure. I'm like, have y'all read this book? Do y'all know about this book? But traditionally published books is more so like it was easy to find. And so I would like people to know about it because even with traditionally published authors, a lot of them are mid list or I don't know what's below mid list, right? Like it's like they exist and their books are probably really good, but people don't know about them. People don't talk about them because you will never be able to explain to me why Alicia Dow is not one of the more popular authors in the YA and middle grade space. Why is she not? And the reason why is because she writes about fat queer Black girls. That's why. Because she writes a representation that does not adhere to what a lot of, I'll say, non-melanated America wants to see about a Black girl. They don't want to see her being plus sized and still being happy. Like, how dare she not hate herself? And it's just kind of like, even with Lizelle Sandberry, like her books, right? I know she's Canadian, right? So not technically American, but she's in an American market, right? But it's just like her books do well, but at the same time, she's not like a, what is it? I don't know. I would argue that she's probably not the author at her publisher who gets all of the marketing dollars and all of the big pushes and all of that. But I'm not going to wish that on her. That's just conjecture based off of what I have seen and how I have seen the book community talking, right? I don't see a whole lot of people raving about her latest books. I know when Blood Like Magic and Blood Like Fate came out, it was everywhere, every list, every conversation. But her latest books, I kind of haven't seen, and it's just kind of like, again, to me, that's interesting. That is so freaking interesting to me, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like I said, traditional publishing is such a finicky thing, and at this point, I'm just kind of like, I don't say I don't want to talk about it anymore, but it's just like I'm really tired of I'm just really tired of the conversations of, oh, it's come to find out that they are full of garbage. They're full of doo-doo and they cannot be trusted. Really? Shocking. Did you also find out today that the sky is blue, that the grass is green? That is amazing, that the sun is hot. Wow. Like, I will be shocked with you, but also like, when have they ever done right? Like, honestly, I just,
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And as Margaret said, Delicious Monsters was hardcore, so good, and I can't do horror normally. I love Delicious Monsters, and I plan to read Tender Beast, but y'all know how I am with reading books. You know, it is what it is. I ain't even gonna hold you to it. I'm inconsistent. I am the problem. I read like 20 books a year. it is what it is. But it is one of the books that I do plan to read, and I'm just kind of like, it's why do we have to fight this hard? And I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, I don't want to fight no more. I like, after listening to and talking to Bethany and seeing how her publisher went about everything and how they treated her, I remember one of the comments on her video was like, it was interesting. And I'm not picking an argument or like shaming this person or anything like that. It just reminded me that the experience of existing in America is different for everyone. And the comment was basically like, the situation was with Bethany. She was like, I'm assuming it's a she, so I'm using that term like generically, right? But the person was like, it wasn't race related with Sourcebooks Fire or whatever, Sourcebooks dropping the ball like that. And I was just like, it is a privilege to be able to look at the situation and be like, it is not race related. And I was like, it may not have been, right? I will give the benefit of the doubt in the sense of it may not have been. But also, as I said in the comment, I was like, but being a Black woman who exists in America and seeing something like this, and it wasn't a one-off incident. It wasn't like one thing went wrong. It wasn't like two things went wrong. It wasn't like three things went wrong. Everything at every step of this publication went wrong. And as someone who has published books on my own, so I have a basic, at least very basic understanding of how books are published and put out and the things that can be done under a crunch, right? With communication, especially when you have money, right? It's just kind of like there's really not a whole lot of leeway and grace that can be given for the situation that doesn't account for the fact that a Black woman wrote a book that was basically saying that had things that would make a lot of white America uncomfortable. And the window of time between 2020 and 2022, when publishing was really putting out books by Black authors to account for their "we're going to do better" lip service, has closed. That's just kind of the reality of it. And it's kind of hard to look at her situation and be like, oh no, if Bethany had been a white woman or a white man even, she would have gotten the same treatment. And it's just like, I don't see that. I can't in good conscience say that I actually believe that, because I don't. And I also believe that if her story had been different and had not included topics that make a lot of people uncomfortable, I don't think she would have gotten the same treatment. I feel like it was intentional. And I feel like it was because she was a Black woman and because they knew that, unfortunately, they could get away with it. And they did. They dropped the ball and basically, I don't want to say ruined her release, but yeah, ruined her release at every turn. And then the thing that got me about Bethany's tweet was, she said they offered her a termination contract in March. Her book did not come out until late March, early April. So that means that they offered her a termination contract before her book was even released. Like, the disrespect. Like, how do you do that? And then for your agent to be mad because you chose to accept it, like, the expectation of you should just suck it up and publish the second book because you've signed a contract when they have expressed that they don't want to work with you anymore. I don't know, man. That's wild. The expectation that you should continue to want to be in a place that has very actively made it known that they don't want you there is crazy. And so I'm at a point where y'all know that I've always felt this way, but I'm just like, traditional publishing is worthless to a Black author. Like, it is what it is. Like that I stand 10 toes down on that. I don't believe that as a Black author in 2024, under any circumstances, should traditional publishing be your only route. I don't think that you should put all your eggs in that basket. I think that you are making a poor decision if you want a career and you are putting all of your eggs in the traditional publishing basket and expecting them to do what they're supposed to do. There may be cases where, you're like Tracy Dion or N.K. Jemisin and you become the powerhouse of your publisher and they put their publishing dollars behind you. But the fact that I can only name those two people who have really had the publishing dollars put behind them, and even with N.K. Jemisin, she had to fight for that. Like, she had to win. She had to literally make history and then still had to fight for that. I don't know, man. I feel like it's not worth it. I feel like there's some battles that need to be fought, but I'm also like there's some battles that you just need to walk away from. Like, it's not if you're only going to walk away from it exhausted, tired, and with nothing to show for it but bruises and emotional damage. What's the point? What's the point? You're not getting anything out of it. And for what, a measly $5,000? I mean, I say that measly knowing that money would absolutely make my life so much easier. And that's, I don't care who said it. Not who said it. Somebody said that money can't buy happiness, and I dare them to live in America in 2024 and say the same thing, because it absolutely can. It absolutely can. I would be a lot happier if I had a lot more money, actually. But neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. The point is, $5,000, like, as an indie author, you could absolutely make that on your own. You could absolutely make that on your own and then some. So it's just like, and if you have to do all your own marketing anyway, if you have to get your book in publishers anyway, if they, and the whole thing with, I think it's Jiren J. Zhao, I think that's how you say their name, the author of Iron Widow, and how they were nominated for a Hugo Award, but they took them off the list because it's basically like, it's not actually based on merit, it's based on who they want to win. I mean, you're not even guaranteed to be nominated for the awards that you rightfully deserve. And I know that Jiren J. Zhao is not Black. They are Asian. I don't know if they're Asian American, but I know that they are of Asian descent. But it's just kind of like, if the experience is worth mentioning, is worth talking about. I think the fact that they pull people off the list if they don't like them or think they are undeserving, and that is wild. So you're telling me that even fighting all the odds, even doing all the things, even rightfully earning accolades and recognition, they'll just not give it to you because they don't like you. You can't win in a system like that. It's not a meritocracy. It's not something that you can earn. It's not something that you can work for. It's not something with achievable goals. And trying to win a game that is broken so that you cannot reach the end is not very wise. It's like trying to play Monopoly and starting out and not owning any property, but the rest of the board already owns Boardwalk. Like, I don't know, man. I wouldn't try to play that game personally. I would just be like, you know what? We're going to be over here playing Uno, and that's it. That's it. We're just gonna play a whole different game completely. But you know, people get mad when you do stuff like that. But yeah, that's my soapbox. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I appreciate it. I missed all of the chat, you guys. I'm so sorry. Y'all know I can't do two things at one time. I can't read and talk at the same time. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. So let me go back through this.
I've been watching. Yeah, I've been watching it. It was, it's Truth Hurts is disappointed, discouraged with the conversation. Understandable. Mm-hmm. Let's see who else. Author Kay McCoy said, my conspiracy theory with Read in general bringing on Black authors is that they only do it to put popular up and coming authors on ice to make the market easier for their darling authors. I absolutely believe that that's true.
Oh yeah. For sure.
And let's see. And then Deja Bree said, is it a conspiracy theory? Is it a conspiracy or a valid pattern? Yeah, valid pattern, absolutely. Truth Hurt says, I refuse to believe these contacts are ironclad. Someone needs to sue the Big Five like a class action or something. Yeah, you could, but really, realistically, how long would that stay in court? And it would be hard to... Racism and those types of things are extremely hard to prove. And it's on the... Instead of it being on the onus of the people committing the racist oppression, it's on the onus of the person claiming that they are a victim of it to prove it, and it's extremely hard to prove.
Yeah, because even with the numbers being what they are, it's like nobody cares. Like, there's a reason why there are articles written, there are numbers shown, there's data to prove it, but the argument is always it's the Black author's fault. It's the author's fault. They're not marketing. They're not doing enough. The market isn't there. It's always that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's see here. There was a
Which is why
question.
which is why I say that Black people need to just publish their own books. If you have the chops to deal with everything in traditional publishing, you have the chops to do what it takes to learn the industry and self-publish.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents.
I will say that it's going to be hard either way. You have to choose. You have to choose your demon that you're going to fight. Like, choose your
Mm-hmm.
opponent. You know, either you're going to fight the system that has a lot of money, a lot of prejudice, a lot of people who are lip service, who say they want to help you, who don't actually want to help you. You're going to have to fight that battle. It will come with an advance, and it will come with some support, right? It depends on what kind of support you're looking for, because if you are like, I can market my own book, I can do that already, I just don't have the resources to put it together. Okay, maybe picking the traditional publishing for your opponent is the best way to go. But if you're like, I ain't about it, honestly, take 3 months, figure out how to do the self-publishing thing. I promise you, it is not as difficult as it has to be. It does require, if you want it to be good, if you want to be good, if you want to be professional, yeah, you're gonna have to come off with some money. That's just real. There are ways to do it for free. There are plenty of tutorials and things on how to do this, how to do self-publishing for free. It can be done for free. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it can't. If you want to be done well, if you want to be done professionally, if you want to be done in such a way that people cannot look at your book and tell that it was done by yourself at your computer in your home on your laptop, you're going to have to come off a couple of coins. Doesn't have to be expensive, but you're going to have to come off a couple of coins. And the thing is, I was talking about this with Tatiana, and it's just interesting how indie, I think the other thing that people should consider, especially for Black authors, is if you want a career or not. Because TradPub, they love debuts. They love it when this is your first book. They love it when you're a baby. They love it when you're brand new, sparkling clean, you have nothing on your slate. They'll push you. They'll be like, hey, everyone go look at this book. Hey, everybody go get this book. Have you heard about this book? Oh my God, I'm breaking into the industry. And then your second book, they don't care. And the reason I say this is because, like, there are so many authors whose books, like, I really enjoyed their first one. I basically heard nothing about their second one. I'm thinking specifically about, like, Joya Goffney and Christina Forrest, who I know came out around 2021-ish. And it was just like, both of them had great books. I know Christina Forrest has migrated on to, like, adult romance at this point. But it's just the fact that when their books came out, what's the other one? Elise Bryant, I want to say. She was also one of those really big authors. It's just like, when you're a debut, they love you. You're the darling of the industry for a moment, and then you're gone. Poof, gone. Even if your second book is objectively good, right? And then with indie publishing, it's the opposite. Nobody cares about your first book in indie publishing. Like, you have to build an audience. You have to promote the heck out of that book. And even then, people don't care until you have a second and a third and a fourth book, until you have a backlog. And I just find it interesting how that works. So I'm like, if you actually really want to be an author, if you really want a career in this thing, if you really want to, like, be able to do the thing, I feel like like, indie authoring is the way to go. And to Venus' point, where Christina Forrest is pretty hyped in adult romance, now she's one of the Black go-tos. I love that for her. I really do. It's just one of those things where it's just like, she was all over my timeline for a while, and then she just wasn't. Then she just wasn't. And honestly, I feel like Christina Forrest is one of those authors who each of her books got better. Like, her first book was good, but I definitely like her second book better than her first one. I didn't read the ones after that because they got too long for my attention span at the time, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I think this year, 2024, is when I really started reading books again to completion. So at the time, I was just like, I can't do it. Can't do it. I'm not doing 400 pages of a romance. No, not doing it. But yeah. There's a question that we got earlier from Oversimplified Productions of, would you say this is case by case per Black author, or per book / type of book? And I'm pretty sure we're talking about Bethany's experience at that point. But I would say that Trad Pub is a failure all across the board. Honestly, I don't think it's per author. I don't think it's per book. I think it is. I think they run it like a business, and the reality of it is that people argue for Black mediocrity, and I think the problem is that the white authors that achieve success with mediocrity need to be held to a higher standard because it's just the bar is not equivalent, and the support to get it to reach the goals are not the same. And if one person only has to run a foot, right, and they get jets on their feet, yeah, it's going to look like they reached their goal in the blink of an eye, right? But if another person has to run 10 miles, right, and they have to do it on their own barefoot across rocky terrain, it's going to take them a lot longer to get there. So I think the failure is across the board. I think it's the fact with agents not actually knowing how to market books when they pick them up. I think it's about the fact that editors don't know how to actually edit them. I think it's about the fact that authors aren't writing it for the audience that they're saying it's for. I think it's marketing teams not actually giving marketing dollars to these books so that even if the author has to do it themselves, at least they have the funds to do it, because for a lot of authors, that's the only reason why they go into trad in the first place, is so that they don't have to have that upfront investment. I think across the board, like I don't know a single aspect of traditional publishing that as of this moment I could say, yeah, it's worth all the mess that you have to put up with in order to get it, unless that thing is validation. Unless it is you need someone to sign off on you to say that, hey, your book is good, it is marketable, we are willing to invest in you to sell it. Well, we are willing to put our name on your product. If that is what you are looking for, if you want to be able to say, hey, I am signed to this publisher, that is really the only benefit as a Black author that I can honestly say traditional publishing offers. And honestly, if you can let go of that, I would recommend it, because honestly, external validation is not healthy. It's really not. And as an indie author, there are a lot of other ways to get that validation, honestly. So, but that's just my 2 cents. There were a lot of things here. Did anyone see the tweet that an author made about how much he spends on marketing? I didn't see it before it got deleted. I didn't see that, but that's I feel like that's something that we could definitely talk about in the after chat. But yeah. Also, slight plug, because it is 11:04, so I'm running over. My bad. But if you have not signed up for the Patreon, then I suggest you do it, because like we talked about in this episode of the podcast, it would be great if people actually supported the things that we do so that we continue to do them. If you sign up for the Patreon, you're supporting the channel, you're supporting the Melanin Library to make sure it remains a free resource, and you also get into the after chat. So, and that's where we get kind of messy. So, I mean, aren't we always kind of messy, even on the public? I don't know. Whatever. Y'all can join. There's a link in the description box below, or you can go to patreon.com/written in melanin. $5 gets you in. So, yeah. But that being said, last couple comments. Read, Love, Listen. This is why I love Read, Love, Listen. She said mediocrity is for losers. It is. I feel like everybody should be encouraged to be great. That's my thing. Like, I don't know. I'm not even mad that they expect books by Black authors to be incredible. I just want all the books to be expected to be incredible if we're going to pay for them. And I don't think it's fair to put all of this money behind a book that's not incredible and then, have a book that is fantastic and be like, no, we're not going to support you. Your work should be able to stand on its own. Like, babes, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. We know that's not how it works. Why are we still playing these games? If it worked that way, I wouldn't be here. If it worked that way, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
But yeah. Deja, first of all, I don't know if I said hello to you, Deja. So hello, welcome. Sorry, I didn't actually say anything earlier. But Trad Pub refuses to promote anything well these days. Same goes for big movies. They rely on fans. Very weird times. We'll talk about marketing in the after chat. I knew Trad Pub was terrible when it came out, that they also take into account how attractive an author looks when acquiring books. That's wild. That's wild. I'm not surprised though. I'm not surprised though. Again, we'll talk about marketing in the after chat. I feel like we have to. That was around the time of publishing Paid Me, which was enlightening, but I'm also like, I don't think that helped advances getting hired. No, not at all. Getting hired for Black authors. I started researching job postings with lots of track publishing companies, and when I realized that I could do a majority of those positions, game changers. Yeah. We'll talk about marketing. We'll talk about marketing after chat. That being said, you guys, it is 11:06, and it is time for the after chat. So if you're new here, the after chat is exactly what it sounds like. It's a chat after the chat. It is held in the Discord server, and it is not PG-13, so no children recommended. And yeah, we are definitely going to be talking about some marketing today because yeah. Anywho, that is it, you guys. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, if you haven't already, go ahead and tap the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on the notifications. We will be back not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that with more bookish drama for you. And yeah. Thank you guys for being here. And I have nothing else to say. So until next time, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Bye, you guys.